And with that being said, I'm going to introduce Michael Hoher, who's going to be facilitating the panel for us. So Michael is our export advisor with the Export Navigator program, which is a program available to businesses throughout the Kootenay boundary to help with exporting a product or service outside of BC. And he's also an entrepreneur in residence with Columbia Basin Trust's Rev Up program. So I asked Michael if he could facilitate the panel for us today. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. Good morning, everybody. It's delightful to be here with so many Nelson and area businesses. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to guide you through today's sessions, which is very much dedicated to 4 businesses in our area that have done great things in light of the challenges that we all have faced over the last few weeks. So the way we're going to do this is there's 4 businesses. There's Popoff Leather, there's Kalesnikoff Lumber, there's Scout Clothing and Accessories, and there is Maverick Fitness. So we're going to spend with each one of the businesses maybe somewhere around 8 to 10 minutes before we move on to the next, and we'll hopefully leave some time for questions and answers at the end. So let's start with Ryan. Ryan Popov is the founder and owner of Popoff Leather here in Nelson. Ryan, so one of the things that I respect you for is your amazing ability to foresee and recognize and react to changing conditions in the markets. So tell us a little bit about how did you realize and what did you observe that things just were not business as usual from your customers' behaviors point of view, and what did you do about it?
Thanks, Michael. So just a quick intro to our brand. We're primarily direct to consumer, so we don't have a retail storefront. So everything we do is online, and we export everything from our workshop. So we noticed a steady decline in organic traffic. So searches for gifts, non-essential items, which we typically are, we just make belts and wallets, went down. So when things got serious in early March, we noticed about a 10% decline in that. Then all of a sudden our ad spend, so the money that we spend on Facebook started to get more expensive in terms of lowered conversion rates, return on the dollar kind of dropped, kind of plummeted. So we were in the middle of a new pattern, a new buying behavior for customers. So essentially what we did was we did a little digging, and we tried to find out how people were purchasing online now. So what we found was that people are stuck at home, they need a distraction, they're looking for not just the essential stuff like groceries and face masks, but other stuff like home renovation products, puzzles, things that they can do on their own, things that they can learn. So these buying habits sort of shifted, and then we kind of thought, well, how do we fit into this? Like what can we offer that's going to appeal to someone who's at home with nothing to do? And that's kind of where we came up with our do-it-yourself kits. So essentially what these are our products are wallets that are deconstructed. So when I think about it, it's actually quite brilliant, because now instead of having employees make our products, we just cut it out and send it to customers, and they pay almost the same price and make it themselves. And it's turned out quite well for us. Just not to dig into revenue or anything, but November is typically our strong month, and we beat last November by 20% just in March when all this started to happen. So it's worked really well for us.
So that's fantastic. So the do-it-yourself kit essentially feeds into a new way of living, not just a change in consumer behavior, but in a new way of living, being homebound, having the whole family congregate every day, all day. So it really feeds into an activity almost kind of thing, rather than just a product. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's really great. Actually, as a family posted on Instagram today, there is a mother, her husband, and their 4-year-old child each had a wallet that they had made, and they showed it on Instagram. I put it up, but it was so cool. And that's exactly right. People are at home, you know, looking for something to do, looking for a new hobby, and like what an awesome time to you know, start a new hobby. You know, you're at home with nothing to do, so hopefully we're filling in that gap there.
So I'm curious, like, the ad spend in social media is very much targeted towards keywords, right? Um, how did you go about changing the keywords that you now started to putting together in your own head as to what's going on the ground? How did that work?
So with Facebook, it's not keywords, it's based on buying behavior. So with Pixels, it looks at what our typical customer looks like, and then it goes after people who are, you know, have similar interests. So I think that's where things started to plummet, because all of a sudden the people who are buying, who were buying those gifts aren't our new audience anymore. So that's where it kind of went downhill. So one really cool thing from this, I guess you could call it an experiment, a forced experiment, was that we found a new audience. And it turns out that's a large portion of the people in our social media are people who are actually folks who are interested in the DIY space or other leather workers, you know. So all of a sudden we have this brand new audience of people who aren't the typical gift buyers or people looking, you know, for a finished product. These are people who are looking at our social media and seeing how we make things. And then all of a sudden we introduce a product that they can now do on their own and learn from and maybe expand their own business somehow.
Mhm. That's fantastic. Great story. I'm curious, looking into the next weeks and possibly months ahead, if that's at all possible, um, what do you think is going to happen? Is your old market coming back online while you're building out the new sales vertical?
It's hard to predict what's going to happen. I know the majority of our customer base is US, so I'd say 85%. And it's kind of scary trying to predict what's happening down there. I think for the time being, we're going to focus on the DIY. We've used this opportunity to also springboard our YouTube presence, which is growing quite rapidly, using the, so every product that every DIY kit that comes out, we make a new YouTube video, and it kind of sort of creates this circle of people discovering us, and then all of a sudden they see a kit that they can purchase. I think for now we're gonna try to hammer home the DIY aspect, maybe get creative, create new projects, templates that people can download. You know, if I can just do a little segue, I think part of pivoting also creates a vulnerability, and I think if you're thinking of trying to fit yourself into this new, I guess you would call it a paradigm or buying behavior, you have to be a little bit vulnerable. So for us, offering our deconstructed wallet kits took a bit of vulnerability. What if someone takes our kit and decides to open their own business selling Popoff leather products? Well, there's nothing we can do to stop that. But from what I'm seeing, it's mostly people who are, they just want to make something. So I think in order to survive, other businesses are going to have to think really hard about what's important to them and maybe just open themselves up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fantastic comment on the vulnerability. Especially, I mean, I guess the general saying is that a week of COVID time is about 2 months, 3 months in real life, right?
Yeah.
And so and you, all of you participants on this call will realize that what these four individuals excel in is real-time decision making, making sure that there's data available, making sure that there's enough due diligence in place to make real-time decisions that are far-reaching and can be can go either way. But it is important to do exactly that, to recognize the situation, pivot, understand and contemplate vulnerabilities in place, and then move on. At the same time, have all your gut checks in place to see how you're doing with those new decisions. So Ryan, absolutely fantastic. Before you go, share with the group where they can find your products, where they can purchase those do-it-yourself kits.
Sure. So everything can be purchased on our store, popoffleather.com. It's linked in the chat there.
Perfect. Ryan, well done. Thank you so much for being one of the examples here.
Thanks.
All right. With that, we're going to pivot ourselves here in the conversation from leather accessories to lumber products. We have with us here Krystle Seed, who is with Kalesnikoff Lumber Company in, is it Thrums? That you're part of? Krystle, you're muted. If you want to unmute yourself just real quick.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, technically we're in Thrums. Depends where. For Nelson people, we say Thrums. Going large, I kind of go Castlegar Nelson. So.
Wonderful. Do you want to just quickly describe what your role is at Kalesnikoff Lumber?
Sure. So I'm the CFO at Kalesnikoff Lumber right now. So it's a family business. My great-grandfather started it and his two brothers 81 years ago. And so we've been going through the generations. I'm working now with my dad and my brother. And we're primarily have been a sawmill for the last, 50 years. And then we've taken on value-added manufacturing and recently are working on launching our mass timber facility.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Krystle. So one of the amazing things and investments in the entire region here of late has been your massive and transformational investment in form of your mass timber facility that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So last week, as I was scrolling through news feeds and whatnot, I noticed that you're hiring CNC machine operators. And I had to halt for a moment and say, oh my God, we're in this COVID time. And there's Kalesnikoff Lumber hiring highly specialized laborers and workers at a time when things are not going all that rosy. So that's absolutely fantastic. Share with us a little bit as to how you're navigating the choppy waters here during this COVID-19 time, and what specifically is helping your business during this time.
Sure. So I think one of the things that's a little bit different for us is really the way that we were set up prior to COVID. In the forest industry, we've seen lots of ups and downs, and especially since 2008, in our industry itself, we've seen a couple cycles go through. Our business is structured in that we have about the same amount of employees as some of the other larger sawmills around here, but we do about a third of the volume. So we've had to structure ourselves in diversification a lot more so than volume, where some of the other mills has been based on that. And so in doing that, we've always had to take a look at what's going to be the specialty markets that we can hit, or what are different markets that we can hit. So we're quite diversified going into this, which is something that's helped protect us, because as markets like the US have fallen off, China's picking up a little bit more, or, you have it offset with Japan's kind of on a different cycle right now. So that's helped protect us a little bit. In that, though, one of the things that we've always recognized with our business model is that we have to keep on doing that. And so as our specialty products were started to be able to be created by some of these commodity type mills just by technology advancing. And so we had to continually look at how we were going to be moving ahead in that. So about 6 years ago is when we started taking a look at mass timber and what that would mean. And the unique thing for us is that it doesn't take any more volume than our sawmill already produces. It just takes that to the next step. And it's helped to diversify our business even more so, as now we've gone from being manufacturers to really kind of starting to enter into the construction industry, which is a lot different for us. And one of the reasons that we're able to do what we are right now as far as posting those jobs for CNC is because a lot of the jobs that we're looking at now are 6 to 12 months out. So that's been something that's worked well in our favor right now, because a lot of businesses are being optimistic about that time frame. So there was a couple weeks where our business we had to pull back We had to deal with all of the safety concerns, make sure our employees were safe. I'm working from home. So we kind of restructured our business to make sure that we were protecting everybody, keeping it safe, and that we could still operate. And then once that started to happen, we started to notice businesses start to call and start to work on those projects a little bit more. So we're right in the startup phase of our mass timber facility, so we really have no choice but to continue on the path of trying to build our team and trying to get ready for what we're really excited for as a market, in the next 6 to 18 months about.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, for me, when we chatted a few days ago, the huge takeaways and learning experiences that really come from your example are, number one, that it is vitally important to do strategic planning.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just mentioned, 6 years ago is when you first tinkered around with the thought of making an investment into your mass timber facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how long it took to come to fruition. The second one is your absolute dedication to niche markets and understanding the importance of diversification. And I think there's so the diversification is on two levels. One, on a product level, being a sawmill and a mass timber facility at this time, and secondly, by geography, where you understood how to develop the US market, the Japanese market, you mentioned the Chinese market. Maybe a little segue. Do you want to talk just a tiny little bit as to what kind of efforts that were involved in diversifying geographically?
Oh, sure. I mean, that was something that was started in the 90s, really. So it's my dad was the one that really kind of started working into the Japanese markets. And for us, we've always been a relationship-based type company. So it's been developing those long-term relationships in those markets. So we have, Canadian markets that deal with laminated beams. We have export markets that we deal with Japanese supplies. And then we have all these other pockets that we've kind of built as we've seen that opportunity. One of the things that's helpful in times like this is that diversity offers you the ability to kind of navigate. But kind of going back to the comparison of, some of these other mills that have the large volumes, when the US market gets really hot, for instance, we don't benefit from it like they do. So we don't see the spikes that they do, but we don't see the kind of the real downside of it either. So it's just a little bit more steady. And I think that's something that's worked for us and something that's matched who we are, because we're able to offer long-term consistent employment for our people then. So we've built teams that are really committed to helping us get through that. But as far as the different markets in the different parts of the world goes, it's really been that relationship base. So when you have that customer base that you have those long-term relationships with, and we've seen those cycles in the markets, then there's times where our customers will be able to help us out when things are tough. And there's times where we're going to be able to help them out when they're seeing, now, right now it's a little bit different because everybody's seeing tough times. But we found those relationships to be key in having our long-term success.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, besides the diversification, which allows you during tougher times, have a little bit of an easier going. You mentioned a lot of relationships, long-term relationships. And tell us a little bit about the meaning and the importance of long-term relationships within your company. Who do you consider the important stakeholders that you bend backwards for establishing those real deep and meaningful relationships with?
Well, I think for one, it's our employees and our extended community. I think that being local and being part of this it's something that's, we're really driven to help support however we can. I think the other thing that's been helpful in the situation that we're now in is to have relationships with our financial institutions. Going into a project like the mass timber facility and having a relationship, we've had to build relationships with our banks to get the investment to be able to move forward on these projects. And now coming into the situation we're in now, it's been really helpful because they know our business. So in a way, having those relationships on the front end takes a lot of work. And when business is normal and having to kind of constantly update and give information. It takes a lot of work. And sometimes, as I think our family has a bit of we're entrepreneurs. So having somebody else constantly look at your business and having eyes on it, it's difficult sometimes. But now where we're at in this situation, it's been extremely helpful because now they know what we need and they know who we are, and they can jump into helping us a lot quicker too. So that's something that I've definitely felt completely supported by our banks right now.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, Krystle, total inspiration from this: diversification, long-term relationship building, understanding your customers. And I think what Ryan said before, the word vulnerability, would you say that also showed up somewhere along the last 6 weeks in your business?
Yes, but even more so in the last year. I think just trying to start up this whole business, I completely relate to what he's saying in that, like, taking on something new, no matter what the situation you're in is, it puts you in vulnerability, but that's kind of what it takes. And I think one of the other things I was going to mention too, just as a bit of as an end note for what we're experiencing and what we've experienced through 2008 and what the forest industry has gone through, is it's a good time to take a step back and take a look at where you can see those efficiencies and really tighten up your business, because then when things recover, you're set up well to succeed going forward too.
Right. Fantastic. Krystle, I appreciate you being on this call. Thank you so very much. Great going. You, your dad, yourself, your brother, you're doing fantastic work in this region. So keep it up.
Thank you, Michael.
I'd love to drive traffic towards you on this call, but probably there's no point.
Well, do you know what I'll do is I'll get our social media stuff up there. It's always good just to have community.
There we go. I love that. All right, Krystle, thank you so much. All right, folks, we're at the halfway point now. I'm going to share the details in the chat box of our next interviewee here, who is Laura Price. Laura, I haven't met you yet in person, so I'm very pleased to see you here. Hello. Let's see if you're...
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, perfect. Wonderful.
Hi,
So
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Laura Price. So she's the owner of Scout Clothing and Accessories at 532 Ward Street in Nelson. You have the contact details in the chat box, folks. Make sure to check out Laura and her store. Laura, take us through the first week of the coronavirus and those shock waves in form of social distancing, store closings, and just out of that scenario of being completely shell-shocked, like something we all had in common, right? Mm-hmm. But take us through how you composed yourself, took action, assumed control of your situation at Scout Clothing and Accessories.
Yeah, first of all, I was very shocked and, obviously stunned that I had to close my store and wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I took a few days at home and thought I was going to maybe even have to close my store, or I don't know. I was really unsure of everything and what was happening, as everybody else has been. And then I decided to put a poll out on Instagram. There's a lot of stores that I follow and watch what they're doing and keep up with what everyone's doing on social media. And I put a poll out because I saw that a store that I know from where I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, they'd done the same thing, just asking if people still wanted to see videos and pictures and all of that kind of stuff. I was really unsure. I felt like people weren't going to want me to keep posting and because that's where a lot of my business comes from, is Instagram and social media. And I just wasn't sure if people were going to want to see my videos or see me talking about clothes. Didn't feel like a necessity. And so I took a while, and then I was like, okay, I put a poll out and just asked if people wanted me to keep posting and wanted me to keep doing videos. And I got almost like a 99% yes, please. And then tons of personal messages just saying, please keep doing what you're doing. It's a nice break in our day, or we love seeing pretty things, or, all kinds of comments. And so that gave me the inspiration and strength basically to come back and just work my butt off. And I feel like I'm definitely working harder than I have But yeah, that's pretty much what I did with just
Yeah.
from that one piece of information. It drove me just to be like, okay, people want to see me. They want to see what I have. And yeah.
You know what? I find the brilliance in your situation really is that you were in a situation of asking yourself real difficult questions. There's on one side, you're probably considering, oh my God, my store is closed. Nobody's coming. How am I gonna sell my items? How am I gonna stay in touch with customers? And there's just so much noise going on in one's own head. So the brilliance that I really love about your situation is, number one, you are part of a wider network of stores that you follow, the benchmarking that you do for various reasons. Is it, marketing messages, promotions, presentation of a brand, but also in this particular case, leaning on people within your industry to find out what could next steps be. So that's one. And the second one really is that you had the wisdom, the foresight, the guts to some extent to go to your customers and say, folks, help me out. Do you want to hear from me? Like, I understand, is clothing essential at this time? I don't know, but tell me, guide me. And I think that is just absolutely brilliant that you had taken that step. So that's absolutely fantastic. So I'm curious. So now you do this online poll, you're encouraged, and you immediately went into action mode, as it seems. And there's a saying that necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so I'm curious. So what were some of the innovative ways in developing new solutions and approaches to help your customers continue shopping at Scout? So guide us through that, what you have done since then.
Well, honestly, it's been like a day by day, everything. I'm just like evolving and adapting. And a lot of it has been, I've kind of turned into a personal shopper for people, basically. So I promoted that I could do virtual shops, like either through Instagram or through FaceTime. And I've been doing that a lot for people. And then just letting people know that I can do deliveries and pickup and all of this stuff that a lot of businesses in town are doing the same thing. And yeah, just trying to put as much content as I can. Honestly, I've been focusing lately just on Instagram stories because that seems to be where I'm getting a lot of my traffic from. I'm finding it a bit difficult to try to do it all. And run the store. But so that's the last like 2 weeks I've mostly been focusing on that and trying to post on Instagram, but just not having the time basically to do it all. But by doing videos, just talking about what I have in the store and continuing to talk to my customers over social media just seems to be the way. I'm kind of just going with the flow with where the customers are contacting me from. And most of it seems to be through Instagram.
Fantastic. So, I'm so I'm a little cloudy on that. Help the ladies on this call through the experience. Let's say Krystle, just because we talked to Krystle last, is interested in an item in your store, but there's always this issue about colors and sizes and all those kind of things. So how do you navigate that with your clients that cannot come and see you?
Yeah, so I ask them what their size is, which is kind of hard because that's not a usually just see someone and see their size. So I ask them like their sizes and what their style is, what they're looking for, any patterns that they don't like, so I can just cut that out easy, or colors they don't like. And then I make a rack and I go through it with them like a little virtual shop. And then I ask them if they want to see a tour of the store. And I'm really good with sizing with people. I can pick someone's size out really easy. And I've been doing this for 15 years. So just honing in on all my skills that I've gathered over the last 15 years of selling clothing and making it fun. People seem to really love it. They're excited. They get me one-on-one. I'm not distracted by, I'm just there to help them. And also presents have been a big thing right now. lots of people are sending birthday presents or like care packages or just like, I love you, I'm worried about you. You know, I've had a lot of people, and then I'm mailing them, so it's even easier for people.
Right. No, that's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Does that answer? Is that?
Yeah, I think it does, because what it is uninterrupted personal attention. It is truly this one-on-one conversation, you and your client, basically having the entire store available to them, you guiding them through what fits with what, you know, within the parameters of what is desired and whatnot. I was especially intrigued by, you know, those tryout videos that you had mentioned. Do you want to share
Yeah.
just real
Yeah.
quickly about what that is?
Yeah, so I've been sending, if people want to see something, I'll do a try on video and try it on and talk to them about it and talk about my size, like tell them what my size is, what I'm wearing, how it fits. And they're really fast to do. And so that's been like an immediate sale almost, because people, instead of, a lot of people, I just send pictures, but I've been throwing it out there like, hey, do you want to try on video? And people love that. It's really been selling things really fast.
Absolutely amazing, Laura. Congratulations on your just ingenious ways of staying relevant, staying in touch with your clients, coming up with new ideas. It is just absolutely fantastic to hear that.
Thank you.
You did mention on the call that initially you were operating almost like on 5 or 6 different platforms.
I still am.
Or you still are.
Yeah, but I'll let you speak and I'll answer to that.
So I guess the main point is it is just a ton of work, isn't it?
Yeah, so I have people, I guess what I was going to say to that was that if people, I'm having messages from Instagram, like private messages on the wall on Instagram, Facebook messages, private messages to me, my personal phone, the store phone, and emails. And so I've had to like develop a way to keep track of everybody, what platform they messaged me on, what they're looking for, and just basically developing a whole new way to do business.
So Krystle was talking about diversification. Do you think that's advisable to have different platforms, despite the fact that it's very laborious? Or let's say if you had the same level of knowledge now and coronavirus would start today in Canada, heaven forbid, would you do it differently?
Probably, yeah, just to streamline it, maybe have 2 forms or 3 forms, you know, I know that one business I follow, they're just doing email. And so it keeps it really streamlined. It's all in one spot. But I don't know, in saying that, it's hard because people communicate through different forms, right? It's hard to turn away business when, you know, however they want to contact you, but it is a little bit confusing. I would definitely say like maybe pick 2 or 3, not 5.
Absolutely fantastic, Laura. I like, congratulations on your efforts. Congratulations on your success throughout. Well deserved, well deserved.
Thank you.
So folks, this is Laura Price. She's the owner of Scout Clothing and Accessories at 532 Ward Street. And check her store at scoutclothing.ca. And then of course, also as we heard, on Facebook and Instagram. So with that, we are moving. How are we doing with time? 11:37. Oh yeah, we're perfect on time then. So we're now moving to our 4th contender of the grand prize of greatest pivot of all times. Cody Abbey. He's the founder and owner of Maverick Fitness. His location, where is he? I saw him before. You're here, Cody?
Yes, I'm here now. Sorry, Michael.
Okay, perfect. There you are. All right, so his physical location is at 206B Lakeside Drive. That's, where's that? Just behind the glass store by the airport there, right?
Yeah, just behind Kootenay Glass, on the dump side of Home Hardware there.
All right, there we go. And So I'm going to just copy and paste real quick into the chat room Cody's whereabouts, that everybody knows how to get a hold of him and how to get stronger. Cody, when we talked, you know, the big overarching theme was just the word salvage the situation, right? It was like a hammer drop from the skies. And it was interesting because your case, more than any other one, highlighted the incredible confusion that took place in the first 1 to 2-ish weeks kind of thing of this whole situation in mid-March. And having to deal with all the messages that came from government, business community, and even some disgruntled residents who felt that you needed to be closed, from what I remember you saying. How did you make sense of all this messaging and while recognizing the severity of the situation?
It was really tough because fear set in right away. And, we were corresponding. We had 5 doctors that were steady clients, and they were training with us right until we made the decision to close. And they were happy with the social distancing standards that we put in place. We were limiting the amount of equipment being used. We had limited class sizes. And so the message from them was sort of completely different than the fear-backed message from the community. And we also, we didn't want our clients to feel that sense of panic and just that we were shutting down right away without a plan. So yeah, we delayed the close, and a couple people didn't like that. I mean, I think we ended up closing right around March 23rd, 24th, maybe the 25th. But yes, we did receive some angry messages.
So what did you do to, you mentioned that you had a little bit of an inside track. Who did you work with? What tools were you using, and were you able to tap into at that time?
Well, like I told you on our conversation there, I had a business coach, and she was working with many other gyms, and the wave really hit the East Coast first, and so I was seeing that East Coast gyms were getting shut down, and she was preparing us for that, and I was seeing what they had already been doing and the communication that they were having with their clients. So I knew the inevitable was coming. And I was hearing from them what was working and what wasn't working. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were working with a business coach, but then also like, you do you do physical classes day in, day out, one day. And suddenly you have to figure out, well, wait a second, how do I package this into an online scenario? Just guide us through the similarities, if there are any, or the dissimilarities between a physical class and an online class. And how did you even get there within such record time to be able to fulfill that need?
Yeah, well, it was hard to make sense of. I was just taking a lot of the information based on faith and advice, because it is really hard for me, to sometimes understand where our clients are at. For example, I don't know that I could be motivated enough to train in my living room. Um, I'm just so jaded and everything when it comes to fitness that it needs to be a specific environment. But for a lot of our clients, it was just the reminder that they still need structure. They still need to have, a form of stress relief, and they don't want to lose their fitness buffer. But it was really hard to understand, like, I didn't think it was going to work because I was relating everything to myself. That was one of the struggles. But we just pushed through, and there was a certain amount of clients that it wasn't for them, and there was obviously some clients that had their income cut off, and so discretionary spending sort of goes out the window. But there was definitely a core group that they're, we're trying to give them, well, we're giving them the same level of service. Just the location has changed.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. How did your trainers, or how did you adapt to this new reality here?
It was really hard, really, really, really hard to adapt to the new reality. And one of the things my business coach said was sort of, you need to redefine what winning is. And winning in this situation is just surviving. Because as an entrepreneur, one thing that can sort of beat you down is expectations. And so I always have high expectations, but then just getting this huge damper placed on everything. Yeah, we had to just think about surviving and keeping the fire going, and then also, it's sort of, we've been wanting to pivot more to the online, so it's maybe sped that up by a couple of years, and it's still foreign and feels a bit against the grain, but it is something that we do need to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Well, fantastic, Cody. So in our conversation, what I absolutely loved about what you had done is, number one, you've been working with a business coach with the intention of continuous improvement, um, just having a learner's mindset in a way, right? Being open to new things, to inputs from business coaches. But I also remember you mentioning that you are part of an industry Facebook group that reflects the voice of, I think you said about 2,000 gyms from across the country, right? Explain a little bit about the value of being part of a larger network like that.
Oh, it was huge because there's, all sorts of theoretical advice, but then there's like the empirical evidence of what's actually working and how clients are responding, and all these gyms are having the same thoughts as you, and then you have sort of a mentor grounding them and reminding them and keeping people on track. And then they're also they're showing data of what's working and what the numbers are, and pivoting the business models, what you can expect to see, and objections that you're going to face with your clients, and so you're ready for those objections. So yeah, to have that amount of people going through a similar situation definitely made it easier.
Fabulous. Cody, thank you so very much for being part of this group today. It is 11:46. We want to come to a close here. I do want to really thank our participants here, Ryan, Krystle, Laura, and Cody. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation, for sharing your success story. Congratulations to all of you for all the fantastic efforts that you have placed forward, for the gutsy, heart-wrenching, but really gutsy decisions that you have done during a time that wasn't very easy at all. So congratulations to you all.